Okay, Chair,
You ready?
we're ready. And Yvonne is not online yet, but I'll let you know if she becomes online.
Okay. Calling the meeting to order. Just a couple of things. If Yvonne does come on, since we're going to be working with a council member that's remote, we have to follow a little bit of different protocols. So every vote will be a roll call vote. All right, so first is the roll call
Vicky Clues,
here.
Patty Thayer,
Yeah.
Tony Goodwin,
Here.
Spencer Scott.
Here.
Betsy is not here yet. Carrie Hernandez.
Here.
Nick Thayer.
Here.
And Yvonne Green. Yvonne Green, if you are online in the public, could you please raise your hand? I don't see your name. No, so Yvonne is not here yet.
Okay.
But we do have a quorum.
Let's keep working. Let's move to item 2 then, approval of today's agenda.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yvonne's joined the meeting.
Thank you. Yvonne, are you there? Are we gonna be able to see this?
Yes, she can turn her camera on. Oh, right.
Yeah.
This one's not going on. The other one is, but I
If
see.
I'm supposed to be looking at that.
No, I'm trying to, for some reason, it's not.
Hold on, Yvonne, we're trying to get you on the big screen.
Thank you. I'm here.
Great, thank you.
It looks like it's just really
There.
dark where she is.
Yeah, I think she needs some light.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to see you, Yvonne. It's very dark.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
Is there any way you can adjust the amount of light?
I can't, sorry. It's pretty hot where I'm at, and there's a power saving thing happening, so we can't put any more light on in our hotels or our B&Bs or homes right now.
Okay, well, we appreciate you being here. I know it's the middle of the night for you. So maybe that's right, it's dark as well. So just gonna remind you, Yvonne, that we need to know whether there's anybody in the room with you over 18 or over.
No.
Great, thank you very much. All right, so now we can move to approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion about tonight's agenda? Any issues? Nope. Then can someone make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seven. Did you get that, Debbie?
Nick
Nick,
and
Patty.
Patty. Okay.
Now, if you can call roll.
For approval of the agenda. Vicky Clues,
Approved.
Patty Thayer,
Okay.
Tony Goodwin, Spencer Scott,
Approved.
Betsy Van Dyke. Approved. Carrie Hernandez, Nick Thayer,
Abstain.
and Yvonne Green.
Approved.
Thank you.
Just to remind you that this was for the approval of tonight's agenda. Also.
Yeah.
When you get to, the other approval of the consent agenda. Yeah, okay.
Oh, so did you want to keep?
Yeah, let's
Those?
see you again if I clarify.
I'll say yes.
Okay.
For this tonight's agenda.
Okay, tonight's
I
agenda.
was thinking me.
You thought we were one step ahead. Okay, that's okay. We can adjust that.
Okay, so all approved. Yes. We'll move on to item 3 then. Does anyone on the council have a conflict of interest given the topics of tonight's agendas? Nope. Okay, great. We'll move to number 4, which is the consent agenda. And the draft minutes of the July meeting. Let me just remind everybody too that even if you weren't at a meeting, if you watch the recording of it and still feel like you can approve or have comments, that's fine. You don't have to. So do we have any discussion? Carrie?
I'm just wondering if there is a typing error on customer six member comment on resolve. I believe it's he saw information on how many roads would be up to date rather than she.
Oh, probably. Thank you. Yes, I will fix that before they go.
Any other comments on? Right, so with that edit in mind, then we move to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Betsy. Second. Thank you.
Carrie? Okay,
And
Vicky,
roll call, yes, approved.
Patty,
Okay.
Tony, Spencer,
Approved.
Betsy,
Approved.
Carrie,
Approved.
Nick,
Stay.
and Yvonne.
Approved.
All right. Moving to item 5, Councilmember comment for matters not listed on the agenda. Just want to remind us to keep our comments brief. And that this is not a time for back and forth discussion, but we can consider anything brought up for future agendas. Any comments? You ready?
I know, I will.
Okay.
I would like to, there's a lot of people in my neighborhood that are very concerned about the dam. And, there's been a request that this be put on the agenda for discussion.
Thank you. We actually have.
Or for an update from Park and Rec, or Viking Park as well.
Okay.
Comment as well.
There's-
There have been a lot of complaints about the plaza recently. Just wanted to make sure that's known, and also would love an update on the plan with the plaza at some point in a draft meeting. Idea.
I agree with that.
I have a comment for matter not on the agenda. There is, I've said this to the whole group. It's been a brutal summer out in areas where there are beaches, public beaches. And parking has been a huge issue, as well as speeding and traffic problems. And you all heard me talk about both of those things. We now have a possible solution being proposed, or at least thought about by the county through parks, looking at another parking lot, because Mom's Beach has a very small parking lot. I think there's only 22 spots in it. And they're looking at a vacant lot, which is across River Road, adjacent to the current lot. And my neighbors and I have a lot of concerns about that, building a lot there. But the main thing I want to get the council's kind of radar on is that it's incredibly unsafe to try to walk across River Road anywhere. And to think that we have this speeding problem as well, where we have a 35-mile-an-hour zone, which is not enforced, and we have evidence through the county that people are speeding. We need to focus on not just resolving the parking problem, but what will happen to people when they are trying to get from the parking lot with their families and their two-wheelers and everything, moving across what is really a highway at this point. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. All right. Any other council comments before you move to public? All right. So now we'll move on to item 6 to the public. You now have your chance to comment on matters not on the agenda. We do ask that you be brief, keep it to 2 minutes. And if you can come up to the podium, then people online can see you and hear you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carl Nicolari from Guerneville. I'm also on the board of Russian River Rec and Park. So if there is an interest in having the dam as an agenda item next meeting, I can arrange for either our chair or our district manager to come here and do a presentation, if that's all right. We can definitely answer all your questions on what's been going on there. And I also wanted to mention, last meeting, there was a question about parking at the Vacation Beach Crossing and why that wasn't in place this year. I guess to make a very long story short, there were some permitting questions around that space. Those have been resolved. So as of today, we are going to be initiating a permit request process to get that going. We need to find out, however, what the permit timing is going to be and also the cost of that. And also just given the fact that the season is half over, if this is something we want to make a priority. But we will have an update for you on that by our next meeting.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other public comment? So now it's not on the agenda?
Yes. I'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Raul Chavez. I'm with California Water Service. I'm superintendent here. This is the new superintendent. He's going to be the acting superintendent here going forward. I'm going to be going back to Stockton. I've just been covering temporary covers. So this is Brendan Duke. He's the new superintendent here in California Water Service for your district.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for being here. Any other public comment? Cynthia, good to see you.
It's good to see you all. Yeah. I'm just hoping that we might have a quick update on the construction projects on Highway 116, the very big one and the smaller one, both.
Any other public comment in the room? Debbie, do we have, or Tracy, do we have anybody on? Tracy?
Sorry, yes, we have one hand raised online. Please unmute to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Corinne Sharpak. I'm a resident on River Drive, in the Forestville Access area, otherwise known as Mother's Beach. I am quite concerned about the agenda that Vicky just brought up. Is that to me doesn't seem like a solution, but addition to the ongoing desperate problems that we have with the fire department and emergency services unable to reach our streets because of the overcrowded beach parking. As it stands, Steelhead Beach this year, starting Sunday mornings, has a waiting of cars 1 mile long from Steelhead Beach access to Wooler Road, trying to enter their beach. This already blocks River Road, and I would expect nothing less if there was an additional parking lot unattended at the Forestville River access. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Tracy, anybody else online?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. We will move then to item 7, and that's county update. And Supervisor Hopkins is here tonight. Thank you. Is that the right thing?
So I'll start with a quick preview of next Tuesday, the 18th, the Board of Supervisors agenda. We actually have a gold resolution honoring River to Coast Children's Services for their 50 years of nurturing healthy child and family development. It's pretty amazing that it's been 5 decades out here in the Lower Russian River. They do absolutely wonderful work supporting childcare for all of our families. Also on the agenda is the West County EIFD plan that will both be on the Tuesday Board of Supervisors agenda. And then actually here at 6 p.m. on Wednesday night, we will have sort of our final public hearing on that subject. We have already had a couple of public hearings and actually we have a very sort of MAC and MAC adjacent board because we have Ty and Pip on that board. And so we got a lot of public comment early on, kind of less public comment as it goes on. And I think we had one member saying, why are there more people here? And it's like, well, if you came to the last meeting, there were more people at the first meeting. And so it's been kind of a bit of diminishing returns, but we continue to be committed to, having a public process and welcoming additional feedback from the public. Also wanted to share that there will be an update from DHS on the mobile crisis services. So they're going to be coordinated countywide behavioral crisis, health crisis response systems, 24/7 coverage, new Medi-Cal requirements, funding strategies, and ongoing efforts to try to ensure sustainable, equitable access to crisis support across the county. One of the challenges is that we were actually early adopters of sort of mobile crisis and the mobile support team. And we, when I actually first got on the board, it wasn't extended to West County. We were able to get it out in West County. But since then, we now have different cities who have kind of stepped up and have an enhanced level of service. And one of my goals is to really make sure that we have consistent service countywide. So it's not like you go across the street and someone gets sort of better service than you do, and kind of making sure that we have equitable access and coverage. I actually also want to give a shout out to the sheriff's office, and in particular the Lower Russian River substation. They utilize this connection and work very closely with the Department of Health Services. And when I visited the Russian River substation a while ago, they brought it up. And then when I actually also toured where the mobile support team is in Santa Rosa, maybe like 6 months ago, they brought up how much they love working with the deputies at the Lower Russian River substation and how they have a really kind of collaborative and supportive partnership. Also wanted to mention at the last meeting agenda, we had Emergency Management Awareness Month. And so just kind of, even though we are still currently in fire season, and we were just able to sort of mark the Woodside fire complete, and potable water is back and accessible to the residents. No more boil water notice, no more lack of showers. It was kind of a process, but we coordinated with the water district through that. We are also already starting to look ahead to flood season and the potential for the super El Nino. So just wanted a reminder, Watch Duty is such a great resource, obviously developed locally in West County and now, throughout the United States. It's wonderful to see how that has grown, because not only do they do fires, they also do floods now as well. And there's also sort of an air quality overlay. We obviously had some air quality concerns as a result of the Woodside fire, and you can get that information straight through Watch Duty. I also wanted to mention that there is Meet Your Street happening October 2nd through 4th, which is a countywide effort to help neighbors connect and build stronger communities. DEM will provide everything that you need to host a gathering. This is one of those kind of resiliency and also getting to know your community, because that's really ultimately what helps us get through disasters out here in West County, knowing that it's going to be a long time for mutual aid and support to come in from the 101 corridor. And if we were looking at an earthquake scenario, we would likely have damaged bridges and roads. And so it's always, we are sort of stronger working together. I also heard the concerns and questions about 116 and wanted to mention that the construction updates will be in our newsletter tomorrow. We always pass along that information from Caltrans in the 5th District newsletter. Also, I just came back from an after action kind of debrief community meeting in Timber Cove yesterday, and Caltrans came up as a topic of concern. We had representatives from our state reps there in the meeting, and we really impressed upon them the necessity to try to expedite some of these repairs, because it did create a bottleneck, even with apparatus trying to get to the Woodside fire from the 101 corridor. And I know just how frustrating it is that you normally know exactly how long it takes to get from one West County town to another, and all bets are off right now because all of the one-way closures are crazy. So let's see, moving on, I also want to acknowledge the chair's concerns about parking and speeding, and acknowledge that that is a perennial challenge. And I also have definitely been hearing quite a bit about that this summer. We did finally get our speed sign for West County delivered, which is very exciting. We used to have kind of one, those mobile speed signs that tell you how fast you're going and tell you to slow down. We used to have one for the whole county, and so we had to kind of split it everywhere. We actually were able to use district-specific funding to fund one specifically for the 5th District. So we're not losing access to the other one, but now we kind of have our own that we can deploy throughout Western Sonoma County. And I believe that the first road is Moscow Road, because that's been getting a ton of high-speed traffic, because now it's the faster workaround, because you don't have to wait through all the traffic on 116 and the one-way closures. It's the trailer one. So if there are particular areas of concern, please email us and we can make sure that they are next on the list for the speed sign trailer. I also wanted to acknowledge that I hear the sort of questions about a specific parking lot. I don't have any current updates on that, but I do want you to know that overall, we are always looking for other parking opportunities in the Lower Russian River to try to get that parking out of the neighborhood. And also acknowledging that one of the longer term solutions is continuing to build the shuttle system, which we're now also talking to the coast about because they really want to get on the shuttle system because it's been very, very effective in the Lower Russian River. And I also want to say that if there were anything ever across River Road, it would absolutely come with safety improvements. And I believe that Regional Parks confirmed that with Debbie yesterday. So we're never going to have something that doesn't have crosswalks and safe crossing because that would be sort of a nightmare, especially with so many blind curves in that area. Finally, I want to mention junk trailers at the July MAC meeting. Joe mentioned during Councilmember comment that he'd heard from several community members who are concerned about the large junk hauling, like raccoon trailers that kind of park all over the place. And they sometimes block visibility for pedestrians and cyclists, or sometimes maybe are also impinging in bike lanes and things like that. Shay has been working on this issue, and it's been determined that this is a CHP jurisdiction enforcement issue. So we're still trying to work with CHP to get some follow-up. And finally, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Fong. And I just want to give a shout out that he reached out to us early on. We had a wonderful meeting and conversation here in this office. Just really appreciate the partnership and the collaboration between our office and the sheriff's office. We work really closely, and you and your team have been super responsive, right? If we sort of see whether it's an encampment forming, people like you've always been very, very quick to go over and address that. And so I want to express my gratitude. Also want to say thank you because he hoofed it all the way up to Timber Cove yesterday for our after action meeting to meet with the community up there. So you can see that he's very dedicated to West County and also getting out in the community. I didn't even know he was going to be here tonight. And so I was like, hey, can I introduce you formally and put you on the spot and have you say a few words in the county update? So Lieutenant Fong, thank you so much for being here. And just, feel free to kind of introduce yourself to the community. Really, really appreciate your work.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for having me here. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Dylan Fong. I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office. I've been with the office for about 26 years now. Came from the main office, so I'm not hoofing it to Timber Cove. I'm actually enjoying the ride, every bit of it, all the scenery. And so my goal out here is just to be an extra set of eyes and ears for the department, provide additional support for the people that work out here. Our current sergeants and deputies out here do a tremendous job, but it's just my job to make sure that everything's going smoothly, report back to the main office, and kind of hear what's going on in the community and working with community groups. So I look forward to meeting you guys and working with you, and hope to make more of these meetings.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you have any questions for either me or for Lieutenant Fong, let us know. Happy to answer them.
I think we're gonna wait till.
Well, for council member comments, we could do
I was
now
gonna do yours.
my update. Okay, we're going to finish county update because I have two items for staff update. Recruitment process is going to be getting started for terms beginning in January 2027. And I had in the agenda, I hope you all had a chance to look at it, the terms that are expiring. And then I indicated if you're terming out or if you are eligible for reappointment. I've heard back from some folks. If you haven't gotten back to me yet about whether you are, if you're eligible for reappointment and you'd like to continue, let me know. We are going to have a number of seats that we'll be looking to fill. And then the other thing to think about, because our chair and vice chair are both either terming out or moving on, and we're going to need leadership next year. So start thinking about whether you would be interested in pursuing a chair or vice chair role, and happy to chat with anybody about that who's interested in learning about it. And then I wanted to give a quick update also on the youth engagement pilot. School starts this week, is starting. And I've spoken to one leadership teacher at a school, but my plan is based on the youth engagement pilot, or the community outreach engagement plan, folks. We're going to pilot a meet students where they are. Instead of going out, we'll meet them physically where they are. And also we won't be coming in with, this is the MAC. This is what the county does. This is how county works. This phase will be adults coming in and listening. What are you concerned about? What what would you like to know about local government or what could be made better? And then we'll connect the dots for them and bring materials back that are related to the county as a way to engage instead of having them, come to a 2 or 3 hour meeting and suss it out for themselves. So I'll be reaching out to all MAC members, those of you who are here, those of you who are alternates and aren't here, to see what kind of availability people have. And I'm marking down what time the leadership classes take place, and we'll have opportunities to meet with clubs and different types of youth programs. One thing I would like everyone to think about too is, in addition to having availability to go meet with students, could use at least one or a few people that would like to be logistics for this to help with the planning. They'd be on an email loop with me and sort of help with the coordinating who's going to be there and so forth. And that could ultimately be a paid intern role for a student. So, but this is the pilot. So these folks would, adults, MAC representatives would help create that. And then we'd have something to turn over maybe to a student as a job to keep this going. So I'll follow up with you by email and find out when things are available. Any questions for me or for Supervisor Hopkins?
Yes.
Forgive me if you said so, but where is the final hearing on the EIFP? Is it here?
It's right here.
Thanks.
And did you say 6 p.m.?
6 p.m. Wednesday.
Any other comments on council? Yes.
Where do we get the info about Meet Your Street?
That will be in tomorrow's newsletter.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I just want to say regarding the shuttle, I was at a Russian River Chamber of Commerce meeting yesterday, and there was a lot of interest in, kind of related to all sorts of parking and overcrowding issues, is getting visitors up here via a shuttle. But in addition to that, having a shuttle in the lower Russian River that's very useful to people that could maybe displace people that are currently parking and could get up here, enjoy a weekend without a car and get around. So I just want to say that that's a community priority, and keep us in the loop.
Yeah, and one thing that might be helpful would be, I bet that regional parks would be willing to present to the chamber on what the, sort of existing route for the Russian River shuttle. And, again, if you have any feedback or, modifications or suggestions, we're all ears to how to continue to improve the service. We are also trying to kind of seek and secure long-term funding to be able to continue and expand these programs. So, but yeah, would love to get the presentation. I think we had a presentation here, but it's been a long time since we had the regional park shuttle presentation. So, yeah, happy to get you information. Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So we can follow up and connect you with regional parks.
Right.
And yeah. Okay.
Any other council member comments? Yvonne, did you have any questions or comments on Debbie or Supervisor Hopkins' remarks?
No.
Okay, thank you. Just had to check. All right, so we'll go to public comment. People in the room? Questions, comments?
Wait, didn't we do that already? Oh, great.
And how about anybody online, Tracy, from the public?
I'm not seeing any hands raised online.
Okay, so we'll move on. Now the main topic tonight for our agenda. We're going to get a presentation from David Royal of Sonoma Water. And we actually asked Sonoma Water to come back. They were here in January to talk specifically about the spill that occurred at the treatment center, the Russian River Treatment Center. So we're gonna get a little update on that, as well as look to the future and talk about the grant that was just presented to Sonoma Water, 48 million, David, I think it was. And that was a really big check. And maybe some things that how we as a community can interact. So David, thank you for being perfect.
Certainly, I'd like to be able to share, and Debbie, I'm struggling.
Oh.
That.
Cheers.
Oh, here we go. This one. Is that showing? Perfect.
It might take.
Yeah.
So. Rattle through them.
There we go. Okay, Chair Clues, Vice Chair Thayer, thank you, and representatives, thank you for having me. My name is David Royal. I am the Assistant General Manager of our Operations and Maintenance Division at Sonoma Water. And as indicated, I was here back in January when we were just on the final throes of our sewer spill at the Russian River Treatment Plant. And we discussed the opportunity to come back and kind of give you an update, talk about after action items that involved since the spill. And then also to talk about some outreach and community advocacy opportunities that would benefit your community as well as the water agency. So I will begin. Let's see. Not advancing.
It might just be delayed also. Hmm.
So typically I can do that and or if that's when you put in the other something. Try to stay still. I am sharing, I'm just not advancing. Which is unfortunate. There we go.
Oh, good. Good.
Persistence. Okay, so these are an overview of the topics I'll let you discuss today. Yes, we've had great collaboration with other county departments throughout this event, and I'd like to share some of the findings from those meetings. Also, I'd like to talk about the cleanup and abatement order that we were issued from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And then capacity planning opportunities that we found at the plant that could help hopefully mitigate some of these events in the future. And then we'll discuss our funding outlook, which will include the grant money that we received, as well as other options. And then lastly, the community advocacy and communication piece. So let's start back at the beginning, early January. I'm sure we've erased all of that from our memory banks, but if we could quickly just relive it. January 6th, about 3 a.m., we were getting indications that our influent storage had reached capacity. And basically all of the ponds were full at that point. About 4 hours later, one of our basins, basin number 3, began to overtop and traveled about a quarter mile down slope into the redwood forest and then made its way into the river. And then later that afternoon, our emergency storage pond also overtopped, which contributed to that flow. At that point, we were left to wait for water levels to drop. Our ability to treat and discharge was compromised at that point. And then finally, on January 8th, about 6:50 in the morning, the overflow stopped, rains had subsided, and we were able to start the cleanup process. Throughout the course of this event, which amounted to about 4.9 million gallons of partially treated wastewater and diluted wastewater from the river, it left our plant and made its way into the Russian River. Advisories had been given for coastal beaches as well as the Russian River, and we were able to lift those advisories later on the 9th and the 12th. So why did this spill occur? This is pretty much a high-level summary, but basically river water entered the collection system through several unbolted manholes some of them being on Fife Creek, others in low-lying areas in Guerneville. And in addition to that, there are other unfound sources. One of the things that we're concerned about is when people's yards flood, they know that they have a clean out cap on their collection system. And in the past, we've noticed those caps being removed to help drain the yard. I don't have definitive evidence that took place, but we have experienced that in Guerneville before. And all it takes is 3 or 4 of those caps to be removed and the plant can be overwhelmed. So that's part of our ongoing investigation, is to investigate additional sources of I&I and flow into our collection system above and beyond what happened from the manhole covers. Influent flow into the plant exceeded 4 million gallons a day, which exceeds our facility's ability to treat. Our wet weather design capacity is 3.5 million gallons a day. And as a result of all the river water, we all know what the color of the river is during these big storm events. It's highly filled with silt. And so silt and clay from the river impacted our filtration system and basically allowed us to have to divert because there's no way we're treating water at that point. Storage at that point had already been partly consumed from effluent flow back for retreatment. And then, let's see. Yeah, a hydraulic overload from all of that silt and additional river water washed out our biological treatment process, which means all the bugs that we have in our plant to break down the solids from the wastewater was compromised and no longer effective. Okay, so as I mentioned, we had great collaboration with other county departments, Department of Public Health, the DEM, the Department of Emergency Management, as well as through Director Hopkins' office, Sonoma County Sheriff's Office aided us in making and helping get messaging out. So through those findings, we looked for what our strengths were as a group and what some of our deficiencies were or areas for improvement. And I'll just highlight some of those right now. So obviously we have a desk that is in our operations center that is manned 24 hours a day. And during this storm event and the flooding that ensued, not only did we have one operator, we had more than one operator at the desk at all times to field phone calls, as well as to monitor our systems and make adjustments as necessary. Regulatory notifications were made timely manner with the regional board, Cal OES, as well as California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then our staff conducted water quality sampling well beyond our NPDES permit requirements, both upstream, downstream of the spill, and at the source. Sonoma Water also stood up a dedicated incident webpage for the public to be able to access information, and we updated that regularly as conditions changed. It was also stood up with bilingual updates as well for Spanish-speaking community. Fortunately, there were no injuries or illnesses reported as a result of our spill. And so we look at that as a positive, but nonetheless, whenever you put 4.9 million gallons of sewage into the river, it's never a good thing. And we're very cognizant of that. Some of the areas of improvement that we noticed, SOPs on some of our valve closure and manhole inspections will require additional detail. When I talk about valve closures in some of the low-lying areas like Johnson's Beach and on the other end of Neely Road from the plant, we have isolation valves that we can close off sections of the collection system that are subject to flooding early on in a flood event. And so while we were able to get those closed, there is additional work that needs to be done so that we can be more proactive earlier on during storm events. In working with Department of Public Health, there was no winter baseline information available from water sampling standpoint. And so we worked closely with them and our lab and environmental waste staff to work on getting baseline winter samples so we really know what the condition of the river is in real time before a spill occurs and be able to compare that once we do have a spill. We also ran multiple meetings on a recurring interval, at least twice a day, with all of these departments that I mentioned, However, we never did activate an official EOC for this event. And we look at that as something that we'll have to do in the future early on. What it does is it allows much better coordination and brings people together in a room as opposed to being on teams. So EOC activation is something that will definitely take place should it be necessary in the future. Signage up and down the river as well as on the coast included advisories, warnings, and closures. Since multiple different departments were issuing and setting up these signs, there was some inconsistency about the need or the severity of the situation. And so out of an abundance of caution, we probably over signaged up and down the river, but nonetheless, to get that message out was really important. And we'll definitely work on tightening that up in the future. So some of the highest priority recommendations that came out of our work is to work closely with the regional board to align regulatory expectations, so that when we're in situations like this, they're aware of our operating conditions. And as we're planning for long-term improvements to the plant, we can consider those in these designs. We also are looking at expanding our hydraulic capacity at the plant by adding additional storage or equalization so that we have more room to store water in the event of a situation like this, so that it won't overtop the ponds, we'll have room to store it. And then we need to strengthen our standard operating procedure framework and our pre-wet weather season preparedness. So we're starting that process now, and we're going to be doing drills with staff. Should we get alerts that the ponds are rising, the river's coming up, staff will be poised and ready to go in the need that we'll have to deploy staff out to the field. Continued development of interagency coordination and outreach. So while I think it was pretty effective the way that we all collaborated together as a county, it was a little clunky in the beginning. The water agency has had spill events in the past where we didn't engage all the county departments. This was the first time we really had a coordinated effort. And I think there's improvement that can be reached, through that work with other county departments. So that's definitely a priority. So the cleanup and abatement order that was issued by the regional board had a lot of recommendations and reporting that they need done. I'm just providing you here our schedule and timeline for some of this work that is going to take place. You'll probably be noticing crews with a little heavier presence in the field. As we start to assess our manholes, we're going to be installing flow meters in strategic locations throughout the collection system, so we can get an idea during dry weather flows as well as winter storm events, what the impacts to specific sections of the collection system, what they're undergoing. We also have to do a corrective action plan and flood specific manhole assessment. We're going to be starting that work probably next week. And we're going to target all of the low-lying manholes throughout the district. And we've outlined about 100 manholes that we're going to be monitoring and assessing so that we can determine, are we in need of maintenance in these manholes? Are they leaking through the rings and barrels of the manholes? Is there I&I coming in through the top? And then finally, in October of 2027, a final inflow and infiltration study report will be issued to the regional board for them to see what are the sources of the water coming into our system from outside, and what measures can we take to address that? Okay, the funding outlook. So as you indicated, we received a $47 million grant from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. That's a project that had been in the works for many years. We outlined specific projects that will be addressed by that money. And just so we're clear, that money and the planning around it was all done well before the storm event of last winter. So while that work will help the overall system, the work that we're doing as part of this cleanup and abatement order for the state or for the regional water board is separate from that, and we'll talk about that in a second. Additional funding sources, and I don't have dollar amounts next to many of these because it's early on in the process. We're still working through some of the details, but we're looking at some federal earmarks where we can get some funding for the Gurneville area, as well as Water Resource Development Act funding. Again, no hard numbers yet. We're still working through that process. In addition, we're able to get low interest loans if need be to supplement some of the money we already have. And as we always have used in the past, the Sonoma Water General Fund has funds available. If we need it to get certain projects done, we can tap into that. As well as the rates that residents pay in Guerneville, that money can be used as well. So what projects will the grant funding take care of? There's basically three main components of our treatment and collection system. So the headworks, there's the picture that you see at the top here with these pipe, interesting looking devices. That's the headworks where all the water comes from the collection system and enters the plant initially. We're going to be upgrading our headworks by putting in relined channels, new bar screens, and a new way to deal with the grit that comes into the system. That will be a significant upgrade to the plant, as well as replacing the force mains throughout the Guerneville area in both Rio Nido and Beanwood. But the main lift down on River Road, which is our largest lift station, and that's where the force main leaves main lift and goes down 116, then crosses under the river all the way to the plant. So all of those force mains are going to be replaced. And then, as you're all familiar, there are 11 lift stations in Guerneville. We're going to be rehabbing each one of those lift stations, and that will provide us the ability to be more efficient with our use of pumps, so we can really coordinate flows leaving the collection system going to the plant, and we can throttle those down if need be, so that we're not bringing all the water in all at once. Hopefully we can use portions of the collection system as temporary storage if we need to. Components of construction that are going to be eligible with this money are the construction itself, real property and easement acquisition, which is a large component to this project, project management, and of course the completion of the final design. The timeline is set to begin in 2028, and we are to be completed by the end of 2030. So what we're going to begin doing is providing signage and notification to all the residents in Guerneville way ahead of these phases of construction beginning. I know you just went through your whole sidewalk upgrade project. We're going to try to be proactive in our communication with everyone so that people can understand the specific locations that will be impacted as we start to unroll this work. So there's going to be two parallel work streams for the work that we're doing. The Clean Water State Fund is, again, work that predates the 2026 spill. And that is going to be, about a 2-year-long project to work on the headworks, the force mains, as well as the lift stations. And at the same time, we are working on the cleanup and abatement order issued by the Regional Water Board. Those projects with the Regional Board are going to focus more on the collection system, on our flow monitoring, manhole security, valve procedures, and inflow and infiltration into our collection system. While both will be happening simultaneously to some degree, we will try to minimize the impacts to the community as best we can. We will, what we would really love to do, and I'll get to this in the last slide, is have communication working both ways so that we're providing input to the community about our impacts to you. And if there's things that you're seeing that we're not aware of, we'd love to hear that back and forth so we can address them early on. So here we are at the last slide. Basically, the one thing I really want to emphasize here is that Sonoma Water takes our responsibility for the collection system and treatment plant in Guerneville very seriously. We do not want spills either. We don't want to endure the I&I that's coming into the system and the flood events. We understand the impact to the community as well as the environment, and so it's something we all take very seriously. Staff that reside at the Russian River Treatment Plant on a daily basis take great pride in the work that they do, and it's something that we take extremely seriously. So there's a few things. We want to get support for the work that's currently underway. We're doing work at the plant, and we're going to start doing work in the collection system, and so you'll start to see our presence a little more. And once we do begin the grant work, we really would appreciate patience from the public as we begin to do this work. Again, continued communication from Sonoma Water is going to be vital, and we need to also hear from you as well if there are situations that arise that we can address. One of the things that are near and dear to my heart is the elimination of disposable wipes and grease into the collection system. From our perspective, there's no such thing as a disposable wipe. They need to go into the solid waste. Flushing wipes, they do not break down and they gum up not only the collection system, the pumps in our lift stations, but the headworks at the treatment plant as well. So anything you can do to advocate for not flushing wipes, we would greatly appreciate. As well as not pouring grease down the drains. As soon as that grease cools, it solidifies. Then you add a few wipes and now you've got a nice blockage in the collection system. And again, as I mentioned before, removal of caps on cleanout systems in the private property, in the homeowners' front yards has led to some overflows in the past. So help communicating that message would be really beneficial to us. We put out newsletters every year and talk about these issues, but I think if there's another source of truth coming from the MAP board, that would be really beneficial. And then lastly, as we enter into the winter season, Sonoma Water will be putting together a webinar on the upcoming water year. We encourage you all to participate in that. And, you are no stranger to El Nino or winter storms. So I think, being as proactive as we can about messaging will be beneficial to all the residents in Durham. So that presents my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember, yes.
I have two questions and a comment. First question is, where's Beanwood?
Good question.
I've never heard of it.
Right, so there's a footbridge that crosses, I think it's over by where Neely Road comes across to from where 116 meets the bridge. That's where the Beanwood lift station is in.
Oh, the one at the playground.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Never heard of that. So, second question. This is a harder question. What sort of cleanup took place in low-lying areas when the water receded? I mean, obviously, if there was untreated sewage, there would be contamination in those areas on beaches and whatever else. What happened?
Right. So there's a few things to understand about that. Number one, the amount of sewage leaving the plant and compared to the volume of water that was going down the river at that time was a small fraction. So the fact that the river continued to flow at high levels after the spill stopped helped to remove whatever water is left ponded in the beach areas. We also had some ponding in the redwood forest adjacent to the plant.
That was my biggest concern. Actually.
Right, and so we were able to do some cleanup out there with that. But by the time we were able to get out there, most of that water had percolated into the duff of the redwood forest. And the fact that it's exposed to sunlight or the environment 48 hours after a spill, it's pretty well neutralized at that point. But we are very cognizant of the need to clean up, and we talked with public health about that at great length during our collaboration. So there was levels of effort to clean up in the vicinity of the plant, but as far as the beaches and up to the coast, really, it was a moot point.
So was there testing done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Sonoma Water routinely does water sampling as a matter of course anyway, because we take water out of the river. But in the event of a sewer spill, we take additional samples in 3 locations: upstream of the spill, at the source, and downstream, to compare those levels of E. coli and bacteria from the wastewater. What we really found is that the levels of bacteria in the upstream samples was close to equal to those samples at the source and downstream. Just the fact that you're having all of that runoff all the way from Healdsburg all the way down, you're bringing all kinds of pollutants into the river. And so it's really difficult to ascertain the difference between ambient levels of bacteria in the river as well as what's coming from the spill. Public health also did the same thing. They were taking samples upstream at the source and downstream, and they even took samples off the beaches on south of Jenner to see if there was any ambient levels of bacteria, and they really found nothing. So we have a very robust sampling program that not only does Sonoma Water take, but now Public Health is doing as well. And they're going to ramp up their wintertime sampling as a result of this.
Well, but as you mentioned, I think it's important to know what the base level is
Right.
versus what happens after.
Right, so is it getting worse?
Other council, oh, sorry.
I had a comment.
Okay,
Yeah.
comment.
I enjoy being your neighbor, and I'm 2 doors down from the tree, or 2 doors up from the treatment plant, and your guys are always very friendly.
Good.
And we wave when I'm walking the dog. And I appreciate their safety. There's safe driving in our
Okay.
neighborhood because there's lots of traffic.
Yeah, there is, and I will definitely share that with staff so that they can reinforce them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Council, yes, Betsy.
Two quick and one maybe not so quick. What is EOC activation?
Emergency
Operations
Thank
Center.
you. Emergency Operations Center. So basically what that does is we have a whole format in place. When we get into an emergency, we fall into different roles. I may not be the AGM at that point. I could be the director of the EOC. We all move into an emergency operations mode where we have logistics. We have a finance group that if we need to buy equipment, we have the ability to make that happen quickly. So the EOC, we have an EOC at Sonoma Water in our Airport Boulevard facility. And the county also has an EOC that they stand up if it's a county-wide emergency. So in this case, what we did is we didn't stand up a formal EOC. We brought all the players together and had regular meetings. But in retrospect, it looks like it would have been best if we had implemented an EOC right out of the gate. It makes the communication more efficient. It puts people in the roles they need to be to address events of this sort. And so that's definitely one of the takeaways from me.
Second easy question. Do you know yet where you're going to do the winter baseline water quality sampling?
I'm not sure where the county is going to do theirs. We do ours. Let's see, where were we? Just below or just downstream from Burke's Canoes. Also at just down from the treatment plant, as well as at Vacation Beach. And then I'm sure the county is going to probably work farther downstream, all the way out to Jenner, so that we have a good cross section through the river.
Yeah, and then the third one, a high priority recommendation is to expand hydraulic capacity, et cetera. Is there any current money available to do that, or is that something that you're going to be needing to look for grants and other funding sources? And is there an actual plan for how to do that at this point?
Right. Good question. So it will take additional funding to build the basin. The project with this goal was started many years ago. We got through the CEQA process and it was approved. But then there was a lawsuit that basically shut that project down. So we never proceeded. For a variety of reasons. A lot of it has to do with, access in and out of Neely Road from a construction standpoint, as you're well aware. So we're going to revisit that and try to mitigate a lot of the issues that came up in our previous attempt. There's also a landslide on the Russian River Treatment Plant property that we need to have addressed first. So we're going to have a geotechnical investigation done to outline the limits of that slide and its impact to a potential equalization basin. So I think we can begin that preliminary work now, but when we get into the design portion and construction, we're going to need additional monies for that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I also have 2 easy definition questions and then a third question. What exactly is a lift station?
Okay, so based on the topography that we have in Guerneville, gravity sewer doesn't always make its way from, let's say, Laughlin or Watson all the way to the plant. So what we have to do is we have to have lift stations where we pump the water from those locations all the way to, say, the Guerneville lift station right down here. Then from there, we'll pump it to main lift, and then from there, pump it to the plant. So basically what it's doing is it's aiding the gravity sewer to make its way all the way in.
Right, so it's basically a pump.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I kind of figured. Is there like, if a certain pump has to be shut off, is it like everything upstream of that, or does it work in? Is it in like series or in parallel, I guess?
Yeah, it definitely works in parallel. And so one of the problems that we face is if we get too much water coming into one lift station, we want to be able to vacate that. But then if we're sending too much to, say, main lift, that means we're bringing everything to the plant all at once.
Okay.
So through this lift station upgrade project, we're going to look at how we can meter water in the collection system better so that we're not inundating the plant all at once.
Great. Okay, second question. You mentioned the caps in people's front yards. I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, so if you're connected to the sewer, first of all, it's not for septic systems.
I'm a septic person, so maybe that's why I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, your interior plumbing of your house is connected to a 4-inch lateral, so to speak. That will leave your house, go through your front yard and tie into the sewer main in the street. But at the edge of your foundation, there's a riser or a cleanup. So if you have a sewer problem in your system, you have the ability to put a snake in there to clean it out. But what that means is you have to have an access point. So by putting a cap on that, you're essentially leaving yourself the availability to clean out the system should you need to. But interestingly enough, when your front yard floods, oh, I can just pull the cap off that. It'll drain the yard. So if you do that through several homes, you're draining a lot of flooding into the system, and it was not designed for.
Got it.
A lot of muddy flooding.
Yes.
Could it be like, if they left it off all the time, would their system work?
Oh yeah, it's not dependent on.
So maybe they just like left it open instead of like, oh, my yard's flooding, I'm gonna take it off.
It's never put back.
Yeah, that's not, I'm just curious, yeah. Okay, and then the third question, if we have a similar or worse rain event this winter, do you expect that we would have similar issues? Or do you think the preventative measures you're taking now are gonna potentially stop this from happening?
I expected that question. So, yeah, what we found is whenever there's flooding events in Burnville, every flood event is different. Every sewer spill is different. It's really difficult to predict which ones are going to present problems and which ones are not. And comments were made in the January storm. Well, it's rained a lot more than this, and the river's been a lot higher than this, and we've never had problems. Why this time? It's about timing. It's about where the intensity of the rainfall is. It's about what other impacts in the collection system are influencing that. So to answer your question, I would love to guarantee that we're not going to see another problem like this. But since we're just now beginning a lot of this work, that's not a promise I can make. But again, no, we're doing everything we can as quickly as we can to mitigate that threat.
Great, thank you. And that wasn't really, I'm not like, wasn't a gotcha question as much as I am like purely just logistical as far as like a year is not enough to make maybe the large improvements that would be necessary to avoid this particular type of spill. But I think part of it can be communication. If you're doing the testing better, the main issue obviously is like health of people and also just the communication of when people hear sewage spill, they're like, it's a disaster.
Exactly.
And if you're doing testing and you can communicate like actively what's happening during that spill, it might, lessen a little hysteria as well.
No, understood. And I think we really started to try to make strides in that direction by collaborating with the county in this last event. Director Hopkins also did a really good job of making sure community messaging was broad and went across, because we have a Sonoma Water Nixle alert system. It's an opt-in system. So that means only the people that signed up for it were getting our alerts. So we added the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office communication as well, so that everybody could get that message. When we do our sampling, there's some turnaround time between getting the samples and getting the results back from the lab. We will be able to, report out those numbers as soon as we can, but it doesn't happen that same day. But know that we're working as quickly as we can to message what's going on.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Karen.
Hi, a quick one. I'm in Forestville, so I'm not using Bill, but I just, do you send out to your customers? I'm guessing you do something about the caps, the grease and the wipes.
We do.
that you get. So they are kind of being informed. There's a, kind of letting folks know about this issue.
Yeah, so every year we send out a newsletter,
Okay.
talking about what the rates are gonna be or interesting stories in the system. And we always have a section that our industrial waste team puts together on wipes, grease, and, these caps. So, but to get help from you all, to help continue that messaging with Bill wants.
Well, even if you're not presenting here, you can come as a member of the public and make a
Yeah.
comment, for 3 minutes. But you can certainly keep reiterating that message out as well.
Okay.
Maybe the Airbnb could help out, because I'm sure a lot of the Airbnb tourists, they don't get that.
Messages,
And I mean, I'm sure there's.
Messaging is an issue for all of us, for everyone, so we understand that problem. Other council member comments or questions? Yvonne, did you have any questions or comments?
Let me see. I was wondering, I know in January, Supervisor Hopkins mentioned a diversion plan for the sewage spill for with Sonoma Water. And I was hoping that that wasn't still on the table. That was diverting our sewage in a case of emergency to either Windsor or Santa Rosa. Can you tell me exactly what sort of, so let me get this straight. The plan right now is just to improve the infrastructure that we currently have?
That's correct. So there have been lots of ongoing discussions about a regional West County sanitation plan. There's been lots of different, go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's been lots of different iterations of how that might be achieved, from going to Santa Rosa, going to the town of Windsor, bringing everything to Russian River, and then maybe also some to Forestville. We have not decided on how that's going to go. However, no matter what the solution is long-term, the Russian River treatment plant is a good plant and is capable of meeting the needs of this community. And so that's what we're really focusing on right now. I think the key is to try to add some capacity at the plant itself, so that in the moderate to larger storms, we have the ability to store wastewater on site and then treat it as capacities drop. So that's the plan right now, is to use Russian River Treatment Plant as our primary source of treatment.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from you, Yvonne?
Oh, no, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
First of all, thank you for coming and speaking about this spill again that I'm sure you're very sick of speaking about. I'm curious what you mean though when you say that this plant has the capacity to handle the needs of this community, because there are always going to be people who do things we might not like flushing wipes, flushing grease, taking the caps off their things or leaving them off or whatever. Like you said, every storm is different, but the needs of this community involves handling large amounts of storm water. And so I'm just not clear what you mean by it has the capacity.
Right. So based on the regulations that we operate under right now, we're allowed to bring 3.5 million gallons a day into the plant. That is usually more than enough capacity to deal with a storm event. Again, we hit over 4 million gallons a day in this last storm, or in January. So if we added some capacity that we could take the top off of that, the plant would be more than capable of treating the needs of the community. Now, if we're talking about a 4-day rain event where we're bringing 6 to 7 million gallons into the plant, it's a different story. But for the most part, Russian River Treatment Plant is really meet the needs of the community. Does that answer the question?
Well, kind of. I mean, it sounds like 6 to 7 million gallons a day is a plausible scenario, particularly with a super El Nino, right? this was not a major storm that caused this spill. The river reached moderate flood levels twice last winter, neither of which caused a spill. So I know you can't wave the magic wand and build a bigger plant every time there's a storm coming in, but I'm curious what that
No, I
means.
hear you, and you know, when they design treatment plants, they can't build it for the worst possible case. The cost would be so prohibitive. So you kind of find what your normal daily flow is going to be in the dry season and in the wet season, add some additional capacity to be able to address that. And in this case, what we would like to do is add additional capacity so we could take more of that top on. Again, I wish I could promise we're not going to ever have a problem again. I can't do that. But we are making every effort possible to minimize it.
You did say something earlier about increasing the storage capacity. And that's actually put in the plan. Am I correct?
Right, well, and that's what this additional basin would be. That would be at the treatment plant.
Right.
But another thing we're doing through the upgrade of our lift stations is if we can figure out a way to meter the water leaving the collection system, we can use the collection system as storage as well. Leave some of the water in the pipes until we have the ability to bring it to the plant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you just replace the Beanwood pump station?
Oh, well, not the whole station. We've definitely replaced pumps on a regular
There was a
basis.
nasty spill there a few years ago that flooded everybody's yards down there. It was kind of, it was a tough one.
Right, no question. Yeah, we are in the process of changing pumps out all the time. But another component to those lift stations is the wet well itself, the concrete vault where all the water builds up, as well as the rail system that these pumps ride up and down on, and the pumping that leaves these lift stations, pushing it into the force main. So we're going to rehab all of those components.
Any other council comments? Let's move to the public in the room, please. Yes, come on up to the podium, please.
Hi, David, I'm Tim. When you guys are replacing the force mains in the near future, will there be times during the day or periods of days when residents should not be using their sanitary system?
That's an amazing question, and I thank you for asking that. Because there are times when we wish we could say, okay, everybody stop flushing.
Yeah.
No showers for like a half a day.
Right.
But what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to set up bypasses so that we can isolate whatever lift station we're working on from the system while continuing flow. So there will be bypasses. We will not be putting that impetus on the public.
Oh, great.
But I appreciate the question.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from public in the room? Yes, Cynthia.
I need just a little bit more clarification on expanding storage.
Okay.
I'm really glad to hear that you're wanting to do that because, as we all know, storage capacity has been woefully inadequate for that plant for a long time and has been the source of a lot of our problems. So I was under the impression that you were going to do that by raising the walls of what you currently have. But I'm hearing you say build an additional basin.
Correct.
Are you doing both or one?
I think we've looked at all possible options, but in order to gain the amount of storage that we would like, which is about 5 million extra gallons, we would need to build another basin.
And you have room to do that?
There's footprint on site, and we had a project in the works many years ago to do just that. We met all the requirements of CEQA, and then there was a lawsuit that shut that project down. So we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Anybody else in the room? Anybody online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, David.
Certainly.
And
Thank you.
yes, come back to us if you have specific messages that you want us to help communicate out.
Will do. Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, goodness, we're gonna get to adjournment. Reasonable time, but before we do that, let me just mention that our next meeting is on September 10th. And it will be a presentation by Project 100 and the 100 River Babies. Am I saying that right? People, which I got to preview a little bit, and it's a great project looking at how to help families with children between 0 and 5 years in our communities. All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good day.
Thank you for